Good day, everybody. This is the Ecclesiarch here, back with some more Warpforge. And today, as you know, the balance update is dropping together with the mobile release. And this is a long-awaited balance patch because, as you know, like Necrons Dynasty as well as the Ultramarines have been very out of hand. And a lot of people were waiting for some balance changes. So we're going to take a look at those changes and discuss which of them are good, which of them are impactful, which of them are maybe too much, and which of them are just useless. Now, also there have been some changes to offense cards, but I'm not going to be discussing that because honestly speaking, I have no idea how that's gonna work out. It seems a little more interesting than what it was actually, but until we see that, it's very hard to tell. But let's start from the Ultramarines, who were probably the #1 on most people's list. And the first change is to the Primaries Impulsor, which was one of their key cards and which is going to remain as one of their key cards. So if you guys don't remember what that is the Rhino that keeps summoning intercessors as long as you are triggering Codex. Now what they decided to do with the Impulsor is reduce its ranged attack from 4 to 3. And while, of course, it's going to make it a little easier for ranged attackers to maybe do some damage, I don't think this is a very significant change because the Primaries Impulsor is still going to be doing what it was meant to do. It was never meant to just deal damage or be a threat because of its damage. It was a threat because it summons the Space Marines basically every time you trigger Codex, and it helps swarm the board. So reducing its damage, honestly speaking, is not going to do much. I think a much better change would have been to reduce its health so it's a little easier to take out. I think if it had been increased in cost, maybe it would have been a little too much because it might become unplayable, honestly speaking, for 6 energy. But I think that, like, I'm just saying might, I don't know if that would be the case, but I think lowering its range attack is really not going to do anything big. So I think this change is very not that effective in any case. As for Captain Sicarius, so they decided to give him a Sicarius, they decided to give him a passive that gives him invulnerable during your turn. And he's gonna be as crappy as he was before. Now, why is that the case? Captain Sicarius, as you know, costs a lot and has no immediate effect when you drop it on the board. What it does is you just drop it, you just wait for the ability to generate next turn, and then you use that ability. Now the good thing is, if he survives, of course, during your turn, you can basically trade for free with Sicarius, and that is of course a welcome change, but it still costs too much. Nobody should be playing Captain Sicarius when Ultramarines have the Primaries Repulsor, which instantly deals 8 damage to a troop, and on top of that has crazy stats. So the thing that people need to really understand about Horus Heresy Legions and Warpforge is that both games are very reliant on tempo and very reliant on aggro. So just giving Sicarius something like this is not going to change everything. Now, if you were to give him a different type of thing, for example, he could generate these invulnerabilities, but you can give him, let's say, a rally to give your Warlord invulnerable until the start of your next turn. Then it could actually be okay, because in that case the Warlord becomes not targetable next turn and it can buy you a single turn. It could definitely be a better call than just having him with this useless passive. So I think this is not going to change much. The Sicarius is still going to be pretty weak. Now, Greatest Deeds. Cost reduced from 3 to 2, change description to ephemeral, give Vanguard and heal 5 to a friendly troop. So you basically have 2 energy, heal 5, and give Vanguard. Once again, this is not bad actually. I could see this being used, but there is a problem with that, a big problem. As you guys know, Ultramarines right now are full of very good cards. Even when I was making my Tigurius deck, I had a really hard situation because there were so many good cards that I didn't know which one to omit. So right now Ultramarines are suffering from success. They have too many good cards, and when you have so many good cards, there is no place for you to be including something like Greatest Deeds. Now, a very interesting change, in my opinion, would have been to, for example, have some cost, like maybe 3 cost, leave it at 3 costs, but let it have like heal 5 to a unit, and give Vanguard until the next turn. So that way you could give your Warlord Vanguard and heal it for 5, maybe use it to protect your board, maybe use it as a heal, then it would be more versatile. I think in this case it's not going to be used a lot. Next one is finally a pretty good change. Armored Support description changed to reducing the cost by 1 instead of 2. This is a most welcome change, and despite that, this card is still going to be usable. If you've also been playing Horus Heresy Legions, you would see that Everguild is changing most of these cost reduction cards. We have already changed from 2 to 1, like Cadmiacs and Abandoned Supplies and Supply Lines and stuff like that. That's because 2 less cost usually is a little crazy, because when somebody plays this and plays like a Dreadnought for 6 or 5, it's kind of over. You could even play a Repulsor for as low as like 7 energy or even 6 if you have your Legendary plus your counterattack. So playing something like that so early can easily cheese through the game and just win you because of cheese. And honestly speaking, I really like this change, and I think it's a welcome change, and I think it will still be playable. Safe to say that Angels of Death nerf was probably the most awaited one, so the cost increased to 7. This was extremely necessary to nerf Angels of Death because that card is absolutely stupid. It's like double copy of that was run probably on all Ultramarines decks, and it's just an insane card. I don't know how much this is going to help. Of course, it's going to help that they cannot drop this on turn 6. Maybe this will make it too slow. Maybe not. Maybe it will reduce the number of Angels of Death you are going to include in your deck by 1. This is something that we need to test. This is something we need to see in action. But my guess is probably it's still going to be used. However, maybe like 1 less copy now. If there was like a, let's say, discussion between using this and Lieutenant Calcius, perhaps you'll use double Calcius and 1 Angels of Death now, but it's still gonna be pretty good. Avenging Zeal, description changed to give +2 melee and +2 range attack to all your units in play and in hand. Just in instead of just in play. So that's actually not bad. Not bad, but I think it'll still not be used that much. This is like the Annihilation Protocol. Difference is that the Annihilation Command works like until the next turn, but it's cheaper. So if you're planning to play a Swarm Ultramarine deck, perhaps this could work, but usually Ultramarines don't exactly swarm the deck. Especially after like Angels of Death nerf, this might become a little harder to pull off, but sorry. Actually, who knows? This might actually make this more playable. I just don't see Avenging Zeal that useful because it costs a little too much. Maybe, but I still doubt it, because you don't have like something as crazy as the Tyranids, Necrons, and the Orcs to just swarm the board like nuts. And you don't have any unit summoning abilities either, like for example Medrael Galen. So I think this won't be that useful, but sure, a welcome buff, I guess. And for Thunderstorm offense card, change description to whenever a player earns a skull, their opponent gains 1 energy. So this is going to be when you reduce your opponent to 20 health, then to 10 health. So the opposing player gains 1 energy when you are getting an advantage. This is a weird one. So basically you reward the player that is at a disadvantage. I don't get this. Perhaps... Oh, wait a minute. But this is more like a defensive card. Like, that's a bit of a mind scramble there. Like, I can imagine when I'm playing against the Ultramarines, let's say as the Necrons, and I know they're going to go super crazy and aggro, I might choose this offensive card because I know they'll be reducing my HP quick, and I'll gain 1 energy to maybe play my late game cards later. So this is actually pretty funny. This is more like a defense card than an offense card, but yeah, this could certainly be actually very interesting. I think I would definitely use this if I'm the one playing the less aggro deck. This is a pretty interesting one. Now then, the Sotek Dynasty. And Sotek Dynasty actually has some pretty good and needed changes. Oh, by the way, if you think the Ultramarines are still going to be strong or not, if you're thinking, yes, they're still going to be very strong. Maybe just not as super strong as they were because of the Angels of Death and Armored Support nerfs, but mostly they're still going to be S tier, no problem. Sotek Dynasty. Technomancer no longer has Remnant Trail and that Remnant trait, and I think this is one of the best changes they could have done. This is a super good change. This is a great change because it allows counterplay, right? Like, one of the most toxic things that Sotek Dynasty could do is drop a Lich Guard and have a Technomancer behind it, and you really were in a pickle, because if you take out the Lich Guard, the Technomancer would resurrect it. If you take out the Technomancer, big chance that he would just raise the Technomancer again. So being able to permanently deal with Technomancers, I think, is pretty good. Plus, honestly speaking, all of the other Mancers don't leave remnants anyway, like Plasmancers and Psychomancers and Chronomancers, so I think it's only fair for the Technomancer not to leave a remnant as well. So this is definitely a welcome change, as well as the change with the Psychomancer, because Psychomancer is probably one of the most annoying units that the Necrons have, a unit that can just keep stun locking you forever. So I think that this is pretty okay. And this is not like that much of a crazy nerf for the Necrons either, because Psychomancer is 4 energy, and having 4 energy, 4 health isn't really that bad. Plus, it's still gonna do what it was going to do. It's still gonna stun lock enemies to oblivion. So I think this is a good change and not too crazy, and it's not gonna nerf you too much. Vargard Oberon, so increase ranged attack from 3 to 5. That's definitely a welcome change, because Oberon having 3 attack, range attack was very miserable, so he could still be easily taken out by range attacks of enemy units. And Oberon is basically doing what I suggested Sicarius do, but a little differently, so it permanently guards your Warlord against attacks, which is really good. But once again, Oberon also suffers from the same type of problems as the others. He costs too much. However, Sotek Dynasty has more things up their sleeve. Like, they could use the Implacable or Replaceable Conqueror to play this earlier, and there could be some interesting combos, especially considering they decided to buff the Monolith by lowering the cost of the ability to 6. That's also like a very nice welcome change. I think in terms of the meta, you still won't see a lot of people playing very heavy Necron units, because once again, the Conqueror card, it costs 5 and you're losing a turn, and losing a turn in this kind of game is not easy, because you lose a turn, then you drop, let's say, Oberon, and gets like hard removed. Yeah, totally not worth it, right? So overall, I think that while this is a very nice, sweet change, it's not gonna do anything that drastic. However, Curse of the Pharaon, description, change to give vulnerable 3 to all enemy troops instead of 4. So this is the second nerf that the Curse of the Pharaon received, and I would say justly so. This is a very powerful card, because this permanently gives vulnerable, right? So this, whenever you cast this, you can basically assume that the whole enemy board is dead. Together with the combination with the Hexmark Destroyer, now this is going to deal 4 damage to everything instead of 5, and with Night Scythe Assault, it's going to deal maximum of 6 damage, down from 7, and minimum of 5, down from 6. So yeah, it hurts, it actually hurts, but I think this is the just nerf, because Curse of the Pharaon plus Hexmark Destroyer is still going to be a very good combo, but it was a very unfair combo at the same time. Like, imagine it just obliterates the board, and it can still obliterate the board. Like, if you have like overtime, it's still going to destroy everything anyway. So this just gives the opponents like some time to breathe against the Necrons, which is pretty good. Plus, there is also another thing. They did not nerf Tomb World, and I think even if they had nerfed Tomb World, Sotek Dynasty would still be playable. It would still not be bad. But as long as they still have their Tomb World, and there were like a couple of nerfs, they will still be S tier as well, I think. However, the bad part is that I think their gap between the Ultramarines and Sotek Dynasty is going to grow a little bit, because Ultramarines really weren't hurt by those nerfs. So Sotek Dynasty is still pretty good, but the gap is going to be big, man. Now, no, not big, but bigger. Earthquake, Solar Storm. So change description to when a player earns a skull, stun 1 random troop for each player. I definitely agree that this change should have happened. Earthquake was absolutely degenerate. And Solar Storm at the end of each player's turn, if they have unspent energy, deal 1 damage to a random enemy. That is actually very interesting, because Solar Storm used to be pretty stupid because it was just empty RNG. So now actually you can consider like not spending your whole energy and it's going to give you some value. So why the hell not? Interesting. An interesting change for sure. And Black Legion. Infernal Gaze and Diabolic Strength have been buffed. They have been buffed for Sylar. I think his name is Sylar, right? The Sorcerer. So Infernal Gaze now is 2/3 instead of 1/3, and the Gaze is +1 melee attack, +1 heal instead of just melee. He's still gonna be crappy. Honestly, he's still gonna be a crappy Warlord for a very simple reason. I think that Warlord just suffers from the fact that there is another Warlord which is basically the same guy but gets to choose his abilities. And yes, I'm talking about Tigurius, right? I don't get why this guy cannot choose his abilities if Tigurius can choose his abilities. Like, if the issue is that if he could choose, he would basically have like Abaddon's ability but better, just change that one spell, change it to something else. I don't know, maybe say like give a random give vulnerable to something permanently, or I don't know, like, doesn't matter. What I'm saying is having these cards randomized is not good, because you never know what the hell you're gonna get. So this Warlord is still gonna be a meme. Diabolic Strength, Mauler Fiend, increase rage attack to from 3 to 5. This is the same problem with Oberon, so good buff, but not good enough. Mauler Fiend costs a lot, no instant value, and in order to get good value from Mauler Fiend, you need to buff it with more and more Marks of Chaos, which is never really gonna happen because that card already costs a lot. So if you want big value from that card, it has to survive a couple of turns, which is not expected, so useless buff. Iskandar Kaon, description, change to Artivist, create a random Black Legion stratagem in your hand, costs 1 less. Better, definitely better, because now it costs less, but Iskandar Kaon is on the same boat as Kato Sicarius and Vargard Oberon. No. They look cool characters, like cool art. I want to play them, but they're not gonna be competitive because it's too slow. No instant value, once again. So, same with Iskandar Kaon as the others, too slow. And Hellfire Outburst. Offense, change description to whenever a player earns a skull, deal 4 damage to a random unit from each player. Pretty interesting. You could certainly use this to board clear. It also damages your own unit, of course. Own troop. Oh no, unit. Okay. So this could certainly help you burst down the enemy Warlord if you're playing an offensive Black Legion. Sounds interesting. I think Black Legion was kind of done dirty. These are like wannabe buffs. Nothing too good. Simhan, Cosmic Serpent, lower cost from 4 to 3. I like that. That's normal because, you know, that ability to trigger like Spirit Stone abilities, maybe with the Spirit Seer, it's gonna be an interesting combo. So a welcome change for sure. I don't think too drastic, but maybe if you could play your 7 energy legendary, where you drop those Guardians, and then play this for 10 energy, now you have that combo, you might get an unstoppable board. But once again, something like Will of Gork can just clean it, so nothing too crazy either. Yeah, I think overall, Black Legion buffs were a meme. Sotek Dynasty received good nerfs. Those were some very good choices. I'm surprised that Tomb World is not touched. I would even leave Curse of the Pharaon as it is and nerf Tomb World instead. Maybe make it 10 energy or at least 9 energy. Ultramarines nerfs, I don't know. I mean, they were welcome. Armored support, sure. Angels of Death. Impulsor nerf was a meme, and the buffs are so-so. So overall, I think not bad. There were some certainly necessary changes that they made here. However, as I said, I think Ultramarines will remain S. Sotek Dynasty will remain S. But the gap between these two factions is going to be bigger. So Ultramarines are now... If Ultramarines were better than Necrons, they're now going to be quite a bit better than Necrons. Anyway, thank you for watching, guys. And leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Do you agree or disagree? Thank you very much.